Good afternoon and welcome to the TrackSmart webinar, Reclaim Your Time with Timesheets. I'm Patrick Neff, Marketing Manager for TrackSmart. I'm joined today by our product guru, Alex Duran. Before we get started, I want to cover just a couple of housekeeping notes. First, please feel free to use the chat box on the left of your screen to ask any questions you may have throughout the webinar. We will take time at the end to try and get through as many as we can. Second, if you're having trouble hearing us, message us through the chat and we'll do our best to help. Finally, we'll email a link to this recording within the next 2 days. In today's webinar, we'll take time to cover what plans have the timesheet functionality, setting up preferences and permissions correctly. We'll talk about the Fair Labor Standards Act, spend some time reviewing entry methods, managing timesheets, running reports, and employee self-service. We'll also take a look at both supervisor and employee views, and show you how employees interact with the mobile app. We'll finish up with some time to review your questions. First, let's take a look at what plans include the timesheet functionality. Customers that currently have either FlexTrack or PowerTrack plans have access to the timesheet functions. PowerTrack customers do not have access to the timesheet features, the ability to have supervisor approval or decline employees' timesheets, or the ability to select more record-keeping fields for employees' profile. If you're a current CoreTrack customer but would like to take advantage of the timesheet functions, please contact us and we'll be happy to help you get set up with a plan that meets your needs. Let's get started by making sure that we have timesheet preferences set up correctly. To get started, let's begin by clicking on the Preferences link located in the top right corner. This is shown on the screen with a red box and arrow. Start setting up your timesheet preferences. First, click on the Timesheets option in the Preference navigation found on the left-hand side of the page. Setting up your timesheets will set how time will be entered into a timesheet when company events or employee events are added for your employees. In this example, a full-time employee default hours are set at 8 hours and a part-time employees are set at 4 hours. Here's an example of an employee event being added to the calendar. You can see that in the highlighted box, the default hours to be added to the timesheet is 8. Note that this matches what we set up in the previous slide. If this was a part-time employee, the default hours would be 4. Next, let's go ahead and start setting up the work week and overtime options. This is also located on the left-hand side of the page in the Preferences menu. This option will allow the administrator to set how their employees' timesheets will appear. First, set up the first day of your company's work week. Next, set up your weekly overtime settings. Please note that overtime laws vary from state to state, so consult your state requirements when setting this up. Finally, we can get set up the time entry method. We won't go into detail on this right now, as we're going to spend more time on it later in the webinar. Please remember that only one timesheet method is allowed to be selected for all employees. Now let's take a few minutes to look over how to correctly set up the employee for timesheets. First, we need to make sure that the employee has the correct permission settings to submit timesheets so that their name appears on the list of weekly timesheets. First, click on the Employees tab. In the Employee directory, click on the employee's name to open their employee profile page. In the employee's profile page, click on the Permissions tab on the far right-hand side. As the administrator, you may select permissions for your employee. For an employee to be added to your timesheet list, please click on the Submit Timesheets option. This will also give the employee permission to enter submit time in their timesheets. Also, feel free to select any other employee permissions that this employee may have. Make sure to click the Save or the Save and Continue button once you have finished selecting this employee's permissions. Please remember that if this is the first time you've assigned permissions to an employee must have an email entered in the email field located in the Contacts tab on the far right-hand corner. They must have this email, as this is the only way they can log in to the employee self-service site and submit their own timesheets. Take a few minutes to talk about Fair Labor Standards Act and how it impacts timesheets. The Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, establishes minimum wage, overtime pay, record-keeping, and youth employee standards affecting employees in the private sector and in federal, state, and local governments. Covered non-exempt workers are entitled to a minimum wage of not less than $7.25 per hour, effective July 24, 2009. FLSA is a federal standard. Now let's take a look at the top 3 FLSA-related missteps. First is misclassifying employees as an exempt. Non-exempt employees are often referred to as hourly workers. They must receive at least the minimum wage. They're entitled to overtime pay, which is 1.5 times the regular hourly rate for more than 40 hours in a work week. Now, exempt employees are usually paid a salary and aren't entitled to overtime pay. Hourly and salary are not classifications, but rather methods of payment. Second is deleting or docking hours from a timesheet. The federal law requires you to pay for all hours an employee works and also overtime. Third is not counting work-related activities. Here are some examples to clarify what this means. Commuting. If an employee picks up supplies on the way to work, that is considered work time. Workday travel. If an employee travels between from work site to work site, that is also considered work time. Travel during any regular scheduled hours, like going to a trade show or setting up booths, is also considered work time. Additionally, training and meetings, if attendance is mandatory or directly related to an employee's job. Here's how TrackSmart Attendance assists you in avoiding these costly mistakes. TrackSmart Attendance allows you to classify your employees correctly via the employee's profile page. Here, the administrator can select the employee status, type of employment, payroll, and classification. On the timesheet, the administrator can enter employees' hours worked for each day or for the whole week. Take note that any time that was not entered by an employee will show up on the timesheet in orange whenever you enter or edit an employee's timesheet. For that, you can click the Save button to save entered time for that day or the week. And when you've entered the employee's work hours for the week, click on the Submit button and approve if all time was entered correctly. Please note that only the administrator has the ability to edit and fix a submitted or approved timesheet. This is done by first selecting the work week that needs to be edited. Next, click on the pen and paper icon next to the employee's record that needs to be edited. Finally, when the timesheet is open, the administrator can go ahead and edit the timesheet even if it has already been approved. In this example, the employee worked on Saturday and their supervisor had to go in and enter the work on the date. We also suggest that you take some time to enter notes for record-keeping purposes so you know exactly what's going on. Timesheet also assists you in seeing the total worked hours of an employee and seeing exactly how much overtime needs to be paid to that employee. Please remember that not all states have the same overtime laws, so please refer to your local or state labor laws on how to handle overtime. Here's how TrackSmart Attendance assists your company in counting non-work-related activities. You can create a calendar entry to keep track of these types of activities. You do this by double-clicking on a specific date on the calendar to create an employee event. This will allow you to add hours to the timesheet for the start and end date that you've selected. In this example, an employee was selected for jury duty and will be compensated for their time off for work. As you can see in the example, by selecting the employee, selecting the reason, and start and end date, we create a reference to that event within the system. On the timesheet, you can now see that those hours represented in a separate column identified as Other instead of worked hours. Take a few minutes to focus on timesheet entry methods. TrackSmart Attendance offers two types of entry methods, in and out and worked hours. With the in and out timesheet, the administrator, supervisor, or employee can enter the time they start and stop working, and the timesheet automatically calculates the number of hours worked each day. With the worked hours timesheet, the administrator, supervisor, or employee enters the number of hours worked each day only. Here's an example of a worked hours timesheet. As you can clearly see, the only option available is to enter the total hours worked for a given day. Here is an example of an in and out timesheet. This clearly allows the entry of 2 time inputs and 2 time out inputs to allow for unpaid lunches or breaks. Now on to managing timesheets. If you're going to be the one inputting timesheet data, you can accomplish this by first clicking on the Timesheets tab on the top menu. Then, once on the timesheet summary page, locate the employee whose hours needs to be entered. Next, click on the pen and paper icon on the far right of the employee's name to access their timesheet. Once on the timesheet, the administrator can enter an employee's hours worked for each day or for the whole week. Take note that entering time that was not entered by an employee would show up in orange whenever you edit an employee's timesheet. Then you click the Save button to save entered time for that day or the week. When you've entered the employee's hours for the week, click on the Submit button and then Approve if all time was entered correctly. Now that we've reviewed timesheets and input, let's take a look at reporting options within the TrackSmart Attendance. To view and run your reports, first click on the Reports tab on the top navigation bar. There are 2 types of timesheet-related reports, the Timesheet Summary and the Timesheet Detail. To access the Timesheet Summary, look for the Time Worked section on the reporting menu on the left-hand side of the page. Then select the Timesheet Summary Report. Select the timesheet status that you would like to see, how you would like to filter employees, and the date range you are looking to report on. Then click Run My Report. Here's an example of the Timesheet Summary Report that will show an employee's total worked hours for the date range that was entered. To access the Timesheet Detailed Report, again, look for the Time Worked section of the reporting menu on the left-hand side of the page. Then select the Timesheet Detailed Report. Select the timesheet status that you would like to see, along with the date range you are looking to report. Then click the Run the Report button. The Timesheet Detail Report will show an employee's daily worked hours as they were entered for a given time range. If you would like to generate your timesheet report as a CSV file, simply switch from the Print to PDF to Export to CSV in Step 3 of the report process. Your report will be generated as a CSV file that can be downloaded and then opened in Excel or any other spreadsheet software. This allows the administrator or the payroll department the ability to edit or add any other fields to these reports before being sent to their payroll provider. What if you want to take back your time and have employees enter their own hours? The Employee Self-Service option will help you facilitate just that. First, let's make sure that your employees have an email loaded into their profiles and an invitation was sent, so employees may log in to their Employee Self-Service website. Employees can enter the self-service system at employees.tracksmart.com. Employees can start to enter their time by first clicking on the Timesheets tab on the top menu. In the employee's timesheet history, employees can find the pay period they will be entering time for and then click on the pen and paper icon to the right of the workweek time period. Here's a view of when the employee clicks on the pen and paper icon to start entering their time. In this example, we show the worked hours timesheet. Employees can enter their worked hours for that day and click on the Save button so that their time can be saved. Once they have entered their time for the entire work week, employees can click on the Timesheet Certification box. This states that they certify that this timesheet is a truthful and accurate record of all hours they have worked for this time period. They can even enter any notes that they would like the administrator or their supervisor to read. Finally, they would click on the Submit button to submit the timesheet for approval. If you have employees that work off-site or don't have access to a computer, they can utilize the Employee Self-Service mobile app to enter their time. The TrackSmart Attendance mobile app can be downloaded from both the Android App Store and the Apple App Store. This app is for employees only, so if you're an administrator, please feel free to log into your account via computer or tablet at tracksmart.com/login. Please remember to download the TrackSmart Attendance app, since TrackSmart does offer other apps in both app stores. In the TrackSmart Attendance mobile app, employees, depending on their permissions, can manage time worked via timesheets, enter their contact information, or request time off. For this webinar, we're only going to focus on the timesheets option. At a glance, employees can see their weekly overview of how much time they have entered in their weekly timesheets. In this example, this employee opened their timesheet, which is an in and out timesheet. Employees can enter their in and out time, enter any notes for the administrator or their supervisor to see, and save the date time entered. Into the work week, employees can submit their timesheet by tapping on the Submit button on the weekly overview. Now that we have everything set up correctly, we've talked about how administrators and supervisors know that they have timesheets to approve. Administrators can find out how many timesheets they have available for review in one of two places. First, the timesheet icon located on the top of the page will identify the number of submitted timesheets. The administrator can also see the same icon by clicking on the Home button and finding the number of submitted timesheets under the Quick Links module as shown here. Supervisors can see their notification by logging into employees.tracksmart.com. In their supervisor dashboard, they will see a large number on the timesheet module showing them how many timesheets are pending for approval. Today we've taken a few minutes to take a closer look at the timesheets functionality within TrackSmart Attendance. We walked through quickly setting up the system for your specific timesheets. We've even reviewed how timesheets can help with FLSA compliance, reviewed the two entry method options for timesheet information, took time to walk through entering timesheet data and then running reports, and finally talked about taking back time by enabling employee self-service. If you have any further questions or need additional help with timesheets or any other TrackSmart functions, please feel free to contact your Customer Success Manager. Customer Success team is here to help you get the most out of TrackSmart. Each of you has a dedicated Customer Success Manager that can help you get set up, troubleshoot problems, and make adjustments to your account. To reach a Customer Success agent, call 877-457-4855 or send an email to support@tracksmart.zendesk.com. If you find yourself working in the system and have a question, feel free to reach out to a Customer Success agent using our in-app chat. Agents can even see your screen to troubleshoot any problems you may be having. Now I'm going to turn it over to Alex Duran, our product guru, to go over your questions. Alex?
Thank you, Patrick. Again, my name is Alex, and a lot of you probably know me as far as answering any emails or past emails that we had before. We're going to go ahead and start answering some questions right now. Okay. One member wrote to us today saying, how do you handle employees leaving during the day for a personal appointment? This creates more than two out for a day. Well, if they have a personal appointment, and if they're leaving for the day, they only have to put in one time in and one time out. If they are coming back All they have to do is stay out during the timeout section. I'm trying to read another one. Half of my employees are salary workers. Do they have to enter their times each day and save them? This question, no. Since they are salary employees, either the administrator or their supervisor or the employees themselves can enter their times for the week and click on the submit button. Okay, here's another one. If we have a core track plan and would like to try using timesheets, do we have to pay extras to try it out? No, extra payment is not needed if you would like to try our FlexTrack, PowerTrack, or PowerTrack Plus plans. Like Patrick said earlier, please feel free to contact us at 1-877-457-4855, and one of our friendly customer success coaches will assist you with a free 30-day trial so you can test your timesheet features. Okay. One more. That just came up right now. Are employees able to clock in and out for their paid breaks? Now, again, for paid breaks, they won't be able to. The reason why is because even if you choose the time in and time out feature, is when they clock in to start work and when they clock out to go to lunch for unpaid breaks. I would suggest not. They don't clock out for lunch. Just a time in of coming in and a time out when they're leaving home. All right. How does the timesheet features calculate daily overtime for my employees? Unfortunately, it doesn't. Our timesheets are weekly timesheets to follow FLSA laws for classifying hourly employees. We do understand that some cities or states have different labor laws, which is why we suggested earlier for our members to contact their local and state labor law offices for more information. Now, a workaround that I found out for daily overtime can be entered when a timesheet detail report is exported as a CSV, and there you can go ahead and add any additional fields to assist you with adding the daily overtime manually. Another one is, can an employee submit multiple weeks worth of timesheets? And can they submit timesheets for future weeks? Well, this is a two-part question, so let me answer the first one. The first answer is yes. Employees can submit multiple timesheets by entering their times and clicking on the submit button. For the second part of your question is no. Employees cannot submit future weeks in advance. Now, we put this in place to avoid those hourly employees that like to enter their times ahead of time. We found out that a lot of our members were having issues with employees entering their times ahead of time. As an example, they had employees entering time as far as July when we were still in January. So we just gave them that option that they can enter times for the current week only. Okay. We have another member. Another member said that we also do payroll twice a month, and therefore payroll will include a full week and portions of the other week. So how can this work? It's easy. Since your employee can go, since this is a weekly timesheet, your employees can save their daily times that were entered. As an administrator, you can pull up, as long as they save their timesheets and not submitted them until their week is over, you can pull up a certain date as a report, and you get the correct calculation of, as far as how much time was worked and if any overtime was done for that week. We get that a lot. Another one is, do you have a customer service person or someone that I can call or call me to assist me in setting up my employees' permission and timesheets correctly? Like Patrick said earlier, yes, we do. Please don't hesitate to contact us at 877-457-4855, and your dedicated customer success champion will be happy to assist you. Or if you have a certain time that you would like us to help you, please feel free to set up an appointment with your account's customer success champion by contacting us on that phone number that I just gave you. Again, we will find out who is your account's customer success champion, and we can set up an appointment just for you at the time that you need some assistance. Another question is, if they leave for an appointment and also for lunch, that is 3 clock outs and 3 check-ins for the day. How do you handle that? Unfortunately, there's only 2 in and out period. So either they come in, come out, and then they come back in when they come back from their break. If they have an appointment, and then they got to come back from an appointment, that I would suggest you handle that by doing a export to CSV and entering that time there. That way you can enter that field so they can have more than 2 in and out times. So if you have, in your case, 3 or more in and out times, you can go ahead and enter those fields in there, and that way your payroll provider can see, the correct times. I don't see any more questions right now. If you have any other questions, please feel free to send us your questions to the chat feature that's on the left-hand side, and we'll go ahead and get those, or contact us through our support at tracksmart.zendesk.com, or like I said earlier, call our 877-457-4855, and you also have the chat feature that is also located on the website once you log in. Other than that, thank you for joining us, and have a great day. Happy tracking.